Hey community, today I am here with mycologist Jessica Wolf from Grow Mushrooms Canada, and she's taken her passion for wild food and food sovereignty and turned it into a really interesting and unique business in helping people cultivate mushrooms. Although you think this is older, right? It's pretty So one thing I love that you're doing is growing all kinds of different types of mushrooms. So I know that all of these are medicinal, but a lot of them are edible too. We got many different varieties of oyster here. I see the turkey tail, the wine caps, the shiitakes, but also reishi and chicken of the woods and other really cool types. Tell us a little bit about that. Like what got you into such diversity?
Diversity is fun.
Right? So experimentation?
Yeah, and every mushroom has a different texture and taste. And I think I'm really into texture. I like the really firm...
The mouthfeel.
I like the firm king oyster. And
those are good.
Yeah, so, and they are so different. You know, the pom-pom of a lion's mane and people making vegan crab cakes from it.
Right.
There's just so much diversity. The colors, the yellow oysters, so beautiful.
They're beautiful.
And then we're starting up the pink oyster. They're tropical species, so we don't sell them through the winter time because we don't think they can manage through Canada's winter being shipped. But we're starting up the pink oyster, which is really glorious.
Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, although oysters are really cool. Wine caps are neat because they grow so big and they're so easy. Like they're just, they're one of my favorites.
Yeah, wine caps are very easy, and you know, it's really easy to grow mushrooms. You can take it to the far level where you need a lot of equipment and stuff if you want to get right into it, but for the average person you really don't need much at all to get started in growing mushrooms.
I think that's what was exciting to me when I saw that you were starting up Grow Mushrooms Canada, is like you're taking all the hard work out of the equation, making it easy for us to just like, oh wow, okay, here's what I do and boom, now I've got food, and really empowering us to like start to then take that, even the leftover substrate, and put it into new stuff. So I really want to make sure that people understand that when this is done fruiting, it's not the end of the life cycle.
No.
What? So give us a couple of like, what do we do with it then?
Yeah, so I would take this bag, and I could start by fruiting it if I
You could do a second run of fruit too on the bag.
I could get maybe 3 or 4 flushes of mushrooms out of this bag. Then I could take this, and instead of just composting it, if I had a tree fall down in the winter storm, I could cut the tree up into rounds and crumble up this mycelium and sawdust and put it in between layers.
Sandwich it.
Like a sandwich, a log sandwich I call it. I could also...
I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
Log sandwiches.
Oh yes, I like making shiitake into like.
So you take the mycelium, you put them between rounds, and sort of stack it up.
Stack it up, and then you just let it sit outside and let nature do its thing.
What else can you do with wood?
Well, we can use the log in other ways. Just involves a bit of tools like a drill. All you need is a drill. You drill holes into like a 3 or 4 foot long section of a log, and then you can either insert some of the sawdust spawn with a special tool.
Right.
Or you can use our plug spawn, which is really easy. You just need a hammer and you just tap the plug spawn in.
That's how I got into growing mushrooms the first time, was using plugs and dowels, and I found it super intuitive and super easy to grow. Plus you're creating these little time capsules, right? By plugging them and covering them in wax, and it's just, they grow for a number of years. At least the ones I had, we had 10 years of good growth.
Yeah, seasonally, it takes a while, it takes patience, and I used to go down and stare at my shiitake logs night after night, waiting for the very first mushroom to ever grow. Right. What am I doing wrong?
Yeah, right, because that first year can be a bit defeatist because you put all this work in, making these logs, and then they don't do anything for a year and a half.
Once they're ready and they fruit for the first time, then you have many years of mushroom production from the log.
So how long does it usually take, do you find?
A year and a half.
Yeah, and that depends on if you do them in the fall or the spring, right?
Yeah. And see, now that's something where I was wanting to learn more about Canadian specifically, because a lot of, in all my reading, it was from the United States,
Yeah,
the
it's all
Southeast
American.
States, and so we've got totally different climate here. And they would say, oh, you're going to get a mushroom in 6 months. Well, after 6 months, going down and looking at my logs every day took a long time.
You're just like, come on, logs.
another year. What am I doing wrong? So yeah, here in our climate, on the red alder that I was growing on, it took a year and a half for the first fruiting.
Yeah, and I noticed you had a few different types of logs. So you had like red alder, which is the one I've always grown shiitakes on, and I think is just a great medium. But also noticed maples. You had some grown on maple.
Yeah, we have the big leaf maple here on Vancouver Island. If you can get your hands on some oak, that's great too. Across Canada, there's other trees: the beech, birch, maple.
So maybe just like at a high level, what are some of the best? Is it all deciduous trees that are best for growing mushrooms on?
Most of the commonly cultivated mushrooms are grown on hardwood, so deciduous trees that lose their leaves for the winter time.
Okay.
But I'm really interested, because we have a lot of coniferous trees in Canada.
do.
I'm really interested in expanding our repertoire of species that can grow on conifer trees. And there is
Well, like
one
chicken of the woods, I see in
chicken of the
nature,
woods,
right?
And there's also one like the lion's mane, the
bear's
head,
Right.
that grows here on Douglas fir and the true fir trees. So I'm interested in expanding our knowledge and our culture base around.
Awesome. I love that it's like this continual improvement, educating. I saw that on the website that you actually had bear's head, and I was like, wow,
Yeah.
not a very commonly sold mushroom, but it's, with lion's mane having such a buzz around, I can't remember what it's good for again. Oh yeah, memory, right. The bear's head really offers an opportunity to get something more locally hybridized, and then also, as you're saying, growing on different substrates.
Yeah, they're pretty exciting
Cool,
mushrooms.
cool. Yeah, you look excited about them. So we've talked about growing grain spawn and sawdust spawn and pellets, but what do you do with some of these other substrates? I see you got straw here. I see there's some coffee grounds, and I also see these wood pellets. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's all sorts of waste organic materials you can grow on, and some things that you can pick up from your local farm and feed store, like straw is really great for growing oyster mushrooms. Not all species will grow on straw, but oyster mushrooms, if you're a beginner grower, they're your starting
They're
place.
the easiest one, right?
Yeah, they're a super aggressive colonizer of the medium.
Whatever
so
it is.
they're gonna take over before any mold gets a hold and give
So
you
what
some
about wine
great
caps? Do
mushrooms.
they grow on straw too?
Wine caps grow on straw also. So you could plant the straw into a bucket, with mixing it just with the sawdust spawn, and in a bucket.
Do you sterilize
or
the
in a
straw,
bed.
or do you just? Is it
Well, that's up to you. It's always an option to sterilize it so that there's no mold spores, if you have the means to do it and the patience. But if
just boiling it down, like double boiling
oh,
trouble?
Yeah. The real easy way is to just actually put it into a container and pour hot water on it, really hot water on it, and let it sit for an hour and a half, and then drain it really well, and then plant it.
Right.
But you don't have to do that. It just increases your success because it knocks back any mold contamination in there.
So oysters and wine caps, anything else?
Are great on the straw. You could also grow yellow oysters. We have a number of different varieties of oysters that you can grow on straw. And they also both like to grow on the wood chips as well. And oysters will grow on coffee grounds.
Which is great, because...
Yeah. So it's really a great use of your leftover waste. And you can grow them on hardwood chips, or these pellets are pure compressed sawdust. So if I hydrate that, it turns into sawdust.
Right, and you can just get those from the animal feed store or from the...
Buckerfields, or from your local hardware store as well.
Right.
And so lots more things will grow on the sawdust. Lots more species.
And we can make wood chips ourselves easily.
You could, if you've got some branches that you want to chip up, and so you can grow this in a garden bed on the ground, or in a bucket.
And the bucket's just the container to hold it all together,
right.
really, right?
It is, and you'll need a place for the mushrooms to emerge from, so you drill holes in the bucket, and the
Perfect.
mushrooms will pop out.
Do you moisten that, or is there any kind of upkeep for those buckets?
You would want it. Well, you would want drainage in the bottom if you're allowing any rain to fall on there.
Yep.
You don't want it to collect and be a puddle of water, because that'll kill it.
Yeah.
So you would have to have drainage in the bottom of the bucket and holes in the side. And you can put a lid on it. You could even do that indoors. People do that indoors. But then the moisture, when it's all white with mycelium, then it's the time to keep it moist outside. So if nature's cooperating and you've got a nice rainy week, you're going to get mushrooms fruiting on their own without much work. But if it's dry, then you're going to have to rig something up to keep it humid. And I've done things as simple as having a shelf unit, draping the plastic over, and taking my hose and spraying the inside of the plastic to keep it humid.
Yeah, you get quite ingenuitive to really just come up with different custom settings to to get them growing.
Yeah, you just gotta think like a mushroom.
Right. Think like a mushroom. Act like a mushroom. Be one with the mushrooms. And you are fruit. No.
Be a fun guy.
Yeah, and fungal. So lastly, I want to ask you about growing reishi. Now, I have a special place in my heart for reishi. This is one of my favorite mushrooms, and I see that you're growing it here and that you have some experience with that. So maybe for those of us who want to produce our own medicinal reishi, give us a few tips and ways to get started on that.
There's another one too. The turkey tail is another one. And both of them are very slow growing. So the mushrooms themselves are slow to form. And it's a trick because it's hard to hand mist every day for months.
Right, right.
So one thing I've done with the reishi is just leave them in the bag. Now, this is not something I do with the other species because they would just not form proper mushrooms. But the reishi, it's kind of deformed, but it's a huge fruit body in here.
There's a lot of fruit in there.
It just kept the moisture inside the bag, and I didn't do anything. I just left it in
And they
the
look more
room.
like reishi antlers too, which I understand is a little higher potency in some of the active compounds, but also more CO2 environment, right? That produces the antlers.
That's right. So that's the thing, is that we did not give this any air exchange. It's
Well, I was
sealed up.
looking at this one right here, and I just wow, what a cool,
isn't it?
looking.
And people are interested in fungal sculpting and things too. So what a fascinating thing to do.
Yeah.
And very easy.
Yeah, and you can see it really did digest a lot of that substrate.
It did.
It's like a big sponge.
Yeah.
Cool. If you harvested this, that's like going to get one harvest off this though, right?
Yes. Yeah. But there's still life in this fungal mycelium, so I could be planting that into a maple log.
Right. So maple that's what I've heard too. Maple is one of the best ones for growing, or harder woods for growing reishi. What else, if we have access to other wood, would we?
Oh, well, people are often asking about cherry trees.
Yeah.
And fruit trees are reportedly not the best mushroom growing trees. However, I have seen turkey tail growing on wild cherry. Maybe
for sure, me too.
Well.
Yeah, that's
So that's something I'm wanting to experiment more with is success. And I've got.
So would you plug them with sawdust or pellets?
Yeah, with some of the
plugs?
with some of the plugs.
And you do turkey tail, but would you try cherry and reishi, or would you try cherry?
You got to try everything.
Yeah, I got to try. I guess so.
That's how we learned all that we know.
Because we have that bitter cherry here, and it definitely. I've got some at my house, and I'm thinking about plugging it up. Okay, well, I'll let you know what I find out too.
Please do. That's our whole goal, is to collect as much information about specific to growing mushrooms across Canada, so that we can share that knowledge with everybody.
I love that. Yeah, so if you are in Canada, if you are watching this video, make sure to leave a comment around some of your experience with growing mushrooms. Let's keep that conversation going, and make sure, of course, you like the video, because we've got lots more to share on this. All in all, I'm seeing that there are so many different ways we can grow mushrooms. This is a health empowering thing, a lifestyle exchange, something to get us a little closer connected to ourselves and to our food. Any last tips you would give to any would-be mycologists or mushroom growers who are just starting out?
Absolutely. I would say you want to start with something that's going to give you success, and that would be an oyster mushroom kit. where all you have to do is cut it open and put a humidity tent over it and spray inside, and mushrooms will grow out of it.
Easy, right?
Yeah. The second next thing I would suggest is maybe an outdoor bed with the wine caps.
Yeah, in your garden, like they're kind of garden giants or
Yeah,
garden.
Garden giants is another name for them. They're such an impressive mushroom, and you just got to spread the spawn around at the base of your raspberry bed with in some straw. It's that simple.
Perfect. Yeah.
And then if you have access to some wood, some freshly fallen logs, then planting shiitake or oyster in them would be my next suggestion.
Love that. So start with success, and these are 3 really easy ways to get going, as well as any of the kits you do come with like instructions and ways to like get them to fruit and stuff like that.
Yeah, and we'll be developing a greater resource on our website as well with lots of educational videos.
Well, thank you so much. So that's at growmushroomscanada.ca, right?
That's right.
Awesome. All right, my friends, may you live long and prosper. We'll see you next time.